My name's Paul Barrett. I'm CEO of Rome Resources. We are drilling for tin in the DRC.
And Paul, good to see you again. Good to see you again. You've been busy since we last spoke. You're getting starting to get some of these drill results through, or you've completed the drill process. What can you tell us?
Well, as you said, busy. I mean, it's busy by name, busy by nature. So the project is now well into this drilling program. We've got 4 rigs operating. We've moved 1 rig from Kalayi over to Mont Agoma. Mont Agoma's slightly bit behind. Kalayi, we've managed to drill 11 holes. Mont Agoma, we're on the 4th, so we're hoping that this will speed up. Mont Agoma is the big tin copper sulfide deposit, and Kalayi is the pure tin anomaly. So we will get the first of those Kalayi samples. They're already in the lab in Johannesburg, and results should come out probably the end of next week, but perhaps the second week in November.
Right, okay. So I think obviously people are looking to this as the next potential alpha min, which is obviously doing really well in the markets at the moment. This drill program of yours, you've got 11, you say 11 holes up in Kalayi, yeah? Yeah. So how many more holes are we looking at, and when do these results start dripping through, do you say?
So the conveyor belt of results, well, we will be drilling through November into December, and mostly on Mont Agoma, as I mentioned. We're moving focus onto Mont Agoma. The Kalayi, first batch of Kalayi results should be out within 7 to 10 days. And it's a conveyor belt process. You know, we have to get the samples through Goma and then to be prepped in Lubumbashi, both in DRC, and then onward to ALS. You know, we're sending them to ALS because they're a certified assay provider, so we'll get certifiable results, and therefore that's a bit of a process. But we are getting there, and there has to be a little bit of patience because we need to get the things done properly. But we are, as I say, we're on that conveyor belt right now.
Right. Okay. And so we'll start seeing those results in the next couple of weeks or so from the, and just on Mont Agoma. Is that something that, I know you're moving on to it now, but is that, you think, where you're getting any credit, or people are sort of looking forward to is it the tin that people are more interested in?
Well, I think the thing about Mont Agoma and Kalayi, the differences are essentially that Kalayi is a relatively well-defined, well-constrained tin-only intercept, or there's 2 or 3 intercepts, but they're all within one particular zone. So it's relatively simple. Mont Agoma is turning out to be quite a big sulfide zone with tin, copper, and zinc, everywhere. And essentially, that looks like, from what we're seeing, it could well be the much bigger prize in terms of the two projects.
Okay, so basically, as a polymetallic, the contained metal value is what you're looking at there. And does that mean if it continues to deliver what you think it can, do you change focus? Do you change emphasis? Do you change allocation of capital? When do you make those sorts of decisions?
No, I don't think so. It's an iterative process with the drilling. So we drill a couple of holes, we see what we get and modify if necessary. But in terms of Kalayi, we're basically, as I said, we're 2/3 of the way through the Kalayi process, and that's all coming up, with the tin intercepts. So we don't see any bad surprises there. It's all pretty good. But Mont Agoma, as I said, it's kind of early days in a way. We're still drilling, but it's looking pretty good from the widths of the intercept.
Right. I think what's been quite interesting is people are starting to recognise that you continue to do as you say you're going to do, despite being in a country which some people may view as a difficult place to do business. So, I know the appointment of Mr. Eckhoff recently. He's been operating in the country for a few decades now. What's the reality on the ground there at the moment? Is it easy to do business?
It's certainly doable. It's it's Central Africa. I mean, you get what it says, but it's definitely an area where well, we take Alphamin, for example. I mean, they're upscaling their production now to about 30% higher this year than they were last year. They're getting that out through Uganda, getting the product out, getting paid. No problems whatsoever. They're only 8 kilometers away, and therefore, it's a very, very similar story. And we're obviously a few years behind the Alphamin story, but it does show that doing business, getting the product out, getting paid for it is definitely doable in that part of the world.
Right. Okay. And let's remind people of the actual the business model here. You're a team of explorers. The end game for you looks like what?
Well, what's happened in the past with the team is that, and we've seen there's been 3 or 4 other projects that they brought from discovery through to pre-feasibility study level, and then sold on or monetized or changed the management and changed it into a mining company rather than an exploration company. We're not wedded to any particular way of monetizing this, and it may be a strategic partner comes in to help us out with the next phase of investment, or it could be an outright trade sale. All these things are possible, whatever's best for the shareholders at the time. And so, Klaus and Mark have done this in the past and brought projects on and monetized them, done very well out of it. Klaus, as you say, Klaus is coming on the board, just finishing the paperwork. I think that'll happen at formality 1st November, which is tomorrow, basically. So, we'll probably announce that next week.
Right, and then let's look at the size of the prize, or potential for the size of the prize here. There aren't too many, say, public tin companies out there. So, not a whole bunch of comps to work with, but grade-wise, you're very competitive. Is this just a case of trying to demonstrate and show the size, the scale of the potential at these sorts of grades, and therefore the economics for you guys? And if so, where do you think that kind of what are the options available to you? Is it a case of, right, we've got to get, it's clearly people saying, well, Alphamin would be a kind of a clear strategic partner, if not acquirer, with your operation, and how do you play that in terms of making sure you're being sort of efficient with capital, not raising money when you don't need to, and sort of building something which has proper value?
Yes, well, there's a lot in that question. I think the answer to the economics is that because the grades are high, we're seeing, obviously from the previous drilling, there's proof of very high grades. It's the same place in Alphamin. Highest grade in the world. So we would, from what we see from the size of the soil anomalies, and as we're chasing it with the drilling, it's not, there's nothing coming out that's going against that. Is that we're probably of a comparable size. Certainly with Mont Agoma, we could be higher. So that really says that project would be standalone. We wouldn't need to have Alphamin as a buyer. We could talk to one of the Chinese operators in country, and it would be a standalone project. It's big enough. The commercial imperative is there for it to have, at the high grades, to have very high high returns in terms of price of tin over the operating costs. So it's definitely, there's a lot of flexibility in there. It doesn't have to be Alphamin.
Right. But I guess what I'm trying to work out is, how do you go from like 20 million market cap to something more significant? Is it just drill, show that the scale is there, show that you continue to increase that resource, and then when do you kind of start the kind of economic phase?
Well, there's certainly a case, because we're quite shallow. In fact, at Kalayi, the tin is at surface. It's a bit deeper in Mont Agoma, but the tin is at surface in Kalayi. You could start kind of an early pilot production scheme pretty early on in the story. So if you wanted to go that way with a relatively limited capex, you could end up starting to be cash generating at a relatively modest scale at Kalayi very early on, while you look at the development options for Mont Agoma. So there's several ways to do it. You could go in with a big chunk of capex and develop Mont Agoma from scratch, or you could start slow and move along. And I think either of those would generate value for the business going forward. The main value generation event right now is going to be the resource numbers coming out, and then we decide how we're going to increase that value by going to the next kind of feasibility study stage, that kind of process. So
right.
Once we get the resources, then we'll have a better handle on how we approach the next phase, whether it's, as I say, going with small pilot mining at Kalayi to start with, or whether it's going for a big strategic partner who can fund everything.
Okay, so we're seeing a lot of the precious metal companies looking at this, getting into earlier production, getting into cash flow after like 3-4 years of a kind of quite constrained equities market. There's been sort of change of sentiment about how you approach these projects. So you're keeping your options open at this stage. I guess it's a relatively new company, and perhaps you haven't had the pain that they've had. Okay, and do you think that tin as a commodity in this space is, we'll talk about the kind of growing delta between supply, demand, etc. But do you think tin's starting to get the recognition that it deserves?
It is. There was an interesting graphic actually in the International Tin Association on their website, which is a graphic from London Metal Exchange Week earlier this year, which had a poll actually of participants saying, which critical metals do you think are the most important, have got the most upside going forward to 2025? And they did 2 polls, one before the meeting and one after, so that they could simulate what happened was basically copper went down the list and tin shot up. So effectively the awareness is suddenly starting to hit, and I think that will only continue, because we are in a situation where tin, there's no substitute in the electronics industry, and therefore the demand will continue to rise. Solar panels, AI, complex chips, etc.
Right. And so, what was that audience? Who was actually
London Metal Exchange Week?
Right, but who was asked that question? I think that's always interesting, because when you look at some metal sectors, I think industry recognizes the kind of shortfalls in the relevant commodity, but the market doesn't yet do that. So,
well, that's right. So that's essentially an industry forum. So once that's out there, I assume the market will follow.
Market will play catch up. Yeah. We shall see. Well, I think what we'd love to do is hear from you in the next sort of couple of weeks when you get these assays back, and give us a sense of what we're looking at. Hopefully more of the same high grade stuff, and then, as you say, so continual flow of information from you would be nice to see. So appreciate your time today. Speak to you soon.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Will do.